What are they talking about over there? We'll see that. Yeah, who's speaking?
Solomon and Nick. I know Dave was up in the VIP room with Solomon.
Solomon? He's talking about rats, remote access Trojans and botnets.
That's what's over there.
Yeah. We'll make sure your laughter's enough that they think what's going on next. They'll be like, "What the hell's going on in there?" Yeah. All right. Hello, welcome to all those who have come and joined us. This is the Hackerspace panel. Just going to pass the mic down, do brief introductions. My name is Joey. My handle is l0stkn0wledge. I'm currently on the board of directors for Nova Labs. I'm wearing my shirt today. I was involved at a previous hackerspace that we cannot mention by name, but you'll hear that a lot. So, yeah. But he might, and I disavow any knowledge of anything Dave Marcus says.
I'm just a guy that they found out in the hallway and said, "Would you come sit on the couch so we can fill up the couch?" And I said, "Sure." No. My name's SkyDog, if you don't know that already, or if you haven't seen my picture at the post office. You're at his con. Well, yeah, it's no big deal. So I'm the guy doing the con, but I also, for 6 years, had the Hacker Consortium here in Nashville. We're currently looking for new space, which is a lot of fun. But we had been running for 6 years solid, so we were one of the early people that started up a hackerspace, and so yeah.
And I'm Dave Marcus. My handle is Dave Marcus. I was. You notice that perfect timing? Yes. It would have been funnier if I waited for you doing a squirt of caramel or something like that. Right out. I was one of the founding key holders of a hackerspace in Maryland called Unallocated Space. I was also the second president of Unallocated Space. So between the three of us, we have more experience of fucking up hackerspaces than any other three people. That does not include a group that has Nick Farr in it.
Well, if Nick was here,
because I think Nick has fucked up every hackerspace he's been involved with. So we're here to talk about our experiences of starting and running hackerspaces. Right, Joey? Cool. Is this on? Oh, it is on. Okay.
So as I said, I gave a little brief introduction about all of our hackerspace scenarios and kind of where we all came from. So the real goal here is to answer your questions, to kind of, if you have questions about hackerspaces, if you're trying to start one, if you have one and you're trying to, and you're trying to figure out, what the next step is, we want to get your questions and we want to try to, give you whatever advice we can. So.
Starting a hackerspace, by the end of this panel, you probably won't want to start a hackerspace after you listen to our war stories.
Yeah. So does anybody in the crowd want to start off a question? Hey.
Why don't we explain? Our hackerspaces were very different.
Yes.
That might be a good place to start. Okay. So explain a little bit about Nova. Explain a little bit about the consortium. I'll explain a little bit about Unallocated. Okay. Because the way we founded it and the models that we worked from were very, very different.
Yeah. So at Nova Labs, when we initially started out, we actually came from another space, if it could be called that, where we had issues dealing with the way the structure was set up, and so what we wound up doing is a group of us, initially a group of about 15, came together and had discussions, and this group eventually created the board of directors. Of the original 15, 10 of us came together and agreed to put in basically at the time $150 a month, with the intent that we may increase that amount later. The goal being that we wanted initially for those.
God knows you'll never decrease the amount that you give to your hackerspace per month.
And the goal being that we would be the ones who actually support the space, and that way when we have members come in, that would be the money that we would have to then actually buy the tools and buy the equipment and everything that everybody else would have. And so that was kind of our initial vision. And for the most part, we've stuck to that. We will have been running for 2 years come January. Maybe a little earlier, depending on who you ask. We officially kind of opened the doors publicly that February. It helped to have a good team of guys. And we had people who had started businesses before, so that was very helpful for us as well. And we had people who were very interested, and we knew, and they were involved in different groups. So we had groups. There's a group in Northern Virginia called NovaArg, which is the Northern Virginia rep group, who do all the 3D printer builds. And we have groups. We have a couple of robotics groups who we had connections with through our initial founders. And that's kind of how we got started. And the idea is, what we kind of came up with when we did our logo was our motto, which was rediscover the art of making. So it was very much targeting the makerspace because when we were talking, we had the argument about hackers versus makers, which is endless and we'll try to avoid during this panel.
That's stupid.
Yes.
It's a stupid argument.
It is a stupid argument. So
you're a hacker. You're a hacker. Get over it.
Yes.
All right. All you makers, you're all hackers. Get over yourselves.
Yes. But what we wanted to do is, some of the questions that came up were about, do we want to have InfoSec stuff and all that? And what we realized is, while having those things and having those classes is good, what we need to target, especially where we are, is the people who want the tools and the equipment.
Yep.
The biggest problem that we have...
That's a mistake we made.
Yeah, the biggest problem we have is we have people who have, they live in townhouses, they live in apartments, they don't have the space for laser cutters and band saws and table saws. The space for that doesn't exist. So what we needed to be first was a space for that. And then we could be a space for, hey, let's all come together and hack this and break, let's come together and try to break, try to break protocols and try to actually, to learn about security, to actually offer classes. Now we actually have offered classes in like malware analysis, and we've had meetups about network analysis and stuff like that. But we had to have that. We had the membership, the real driving membership, the recurring membership comes from the people who actually want and need access to the tools.
Yep.
And because of because of where we live, you wind up spending 2/3 of your money just on your damn space, just on the building, the roof, and that doesn't include
keeping the lights running,
keeping the lights on,
paying the rent.
Yeah, we wound up in a very nice situation, fortunately for us, and we're hoping to move into another. What we've tried to do is, win hearts and minds of landlords in Northern Virginia.
Amen.
And in doing that, we actually found.
Don't set fire to your parking lot.
Yes. Don't set fire to your parking lot.
Don't set fire to your parking lot. We learned that lesson.
One of the things,
we learned that lesson. Actually, I take that back. We didn't learn that. It took 3 times to learn that lesson in an allocated space. Don't set fire to your parking lot.
And we had one who, when we described what we wanted to do with the makerspace and kind of going back to the people being able to make stuff themselves and to build and to craft and design their own things, that helped. That he was empowered by that vision. And that's why we were part of the reason why we were able to get where we were from a makerspace perspective and begin. And then we went to sponsorships, and that's how we kind of got everything kicked off and started.
It's perceptually, it's really interesting, right? The difference between what a hackerspace versus a makerspace would be perceived as, right? Where unallocated space is we're in a very traditional industrial complex, right? Bays, stuff like that. So the other bays are occupied by motorheads, right? They're guys with motor shops. The guy next to us does high-end motors. 2 doors down, they do high-end HVAC. Sewage. Dudes across the way do high-end exhaust. Literally, things that can explode and take out the neighborhood are what these things do, right? That's perfectly fine in an industrial complex. Tell them you're a hackerspace. No, you can't come here. No, we don't want you people here. But tell them you're a makerspace, and it's a completely different perception. That's kind of fascinating in and of itself, is the difference between how a hackerspace versus a makerspace is perceived. And we had issues early on with kind of not knowing what we wanted to be when we established ourselves. Because all of the original founders of Unallocated, we were all InfoSec people, literally. No one was a maker. No one really was into hardware in the sense of replication or rep wraps or 3D printers or anything like that. Literally, we're all code monkeys, or we're all people in the hacking community and stuff. So our space was a little bit different and very much challenged kind of from the get-go, because we had a lot of physical space, but when you're all IT InfoSec guys, you don't need a lot of physical space because you're all sitting on your fucking laptops not even talking to each other. It literally we only physically needed a space the size of this stage. for us to all sit in because we're all sitting at tables on laptops coding.
Isn't that what the loft was?
Ripping apart malware. The loft, we could have literally had our space only in the loft area, but we had a gigantic space that we always wanted to have rep wraps and 3D printers and replicators and CNCs, but none of us were into that. So it was kind of, it's kind of like, well, that would be great over there.
And the other
build that over there.
And the other dirty little secret is, that stuff costs money. And,
Big time.
And, when people want to come and use that stuff, and they'll give you money to use it, but they won't give you money until you have it.
Yep, that's right.
So
Like,
having that money up front, and that's
when
where
you have the printer, give me a call.
Yeah.
And I'll come down.
And
I'll join your space.
we were very fortunate. Both the MakerBot we have and our laser cutter were provided as donations.
Yep.
We had a company who sponsored, who gave us the donation, and we plastered their name on the devices. We have a sponsorship model where we put gears up in the entryway that are laser engraved with our sponsors, and and the only thing they kind of asked is, hey, if every once in a while you guys can, let us, make announcements about, jobs and look at, potentially trying to snag talent from the makerspace. You know what? It's a small price to pay for that.
Small price to pay.
Yep. Small price to pay for being able to get that sort of equipment. I mean, we have a laser cutter that if we had to pay out of pocket for it, I mean, I believe all said and done, it was probably $12K with the laser cutter, all the ventilation, everything else.
That's a big deal.
So I mean, to be able to get a large chunk of that paid for and not have to pay for it ourselves.
And that brings a lot of people in the door.
Yeah, it
That
does.
brings
I
a
mean,
lot of people
everybody
in the
wants
door.
laser cutter. Oh, that's awesome. I mean, everybody, who wouldn't want a laser cutter?
How did you make those relationships with the sponsors?
So in our case, our relationships with the sponsors, a lot of it came from our founders and and then our board of directors, people who went to their companies and said, "This is what we're doing, and is there some program where we can get money where you're willing to fund us and provide us with money to get these tools and to purchase this equipment that we can use?" And so that was a big part of it early on, was being able to take control of those resources. And then over time, we were able to have other people come in to the point that we've actually had people from both the nearby towns who actually were very interested in what we were doing and trying to keep us within their kind of borders, because they saw us as almost as like as a piece of like, hey, if you live here, look, we have access to, you have this space within your community.
So, pardon me, that's a little loud there. We had the Hacker Consortium here in Nashville, and anyone who's ever looked at doing a space has probably seen the CCC's presentation about that, and they kind of have some good guidelines for it, which are a great starting point.
Which is irrelevant considering their building is free and they pay no rent.
Yeah, in Germany, they're like, oh, you want to have a club, huh?
They're the roadmap which most hackerspaces try to model themselves after, and those fuckers pay no rent.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
None. Zero.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
They're in that facility for life.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
understanding the economics of your space is like step one.
Well,
And most people don't. I didn't mean to jump.
No, you're
on
good.
top of this guy.
You do it all the time, asshole.
Most people don't actually think about that portion of it, right?
So, great, thanks a lot.
Now none of us are going to get to talk.
So,
I am not Nick Farr.
I love you. So anyway, ours actually was born out of a security audit that Gabriel Kraft, we call him Seablind, he and I were at an event at a multinational, multi-million-dollar company that was getting pwned in real time. So we happened to be on site working, and we spent about 2 weeks with this company trying to fix their problems. And one day, he came in, and we were sitting around having our morning coffee trying to figure out what damage had taken place. And he said, I was thinking it'd be really cool if we had a space in Nashville, or we could get together and do stuff. And I said, I've always thought if I was a millionaire, I would actually have just a space where all the guys could come hang out and learn and goof around and play with stuff. Because I know how to do tons of things. None of them are any, worth a damn. But anyway, welding and computers and stuff. It'd be great to get everybody together, and it's not a.
How much of that has to do with running a space?
Well, that's
right?
the interesting portion of that conversation. Yep. So he says, dude, we ought to do that. And I was like, cool. What would we call it? And he said, I don't know. We tossed a few ideas around and came up with a few. The next morning I showed up, and over our coffee I said, well, I did it. He said, did what? And I said, I registered, hackerconsortium.com, so we're going to do this. And he looked at me like, are you out of your damn mind? And literally, I drug him through the process of looking at space to get, something to do. And unfortunately, getting the actual space to do something like that is such an expense that I was staring down the pin barrel of a $92,000 lease for 3 years, where I told everybody, you have to understand, if this venture fails, I have to move out of my rental house into this R&D space in an office park and live here for the balance of the lease, because a lot of people don't understand that when you sign a lease, if you default on the lease, they don't really mind so much because they're going to get the rest of the amount out of you one way or the other, and then the next month they'll put somebody else in that space and they get twice the amount. So we spent quite a while trying to find a place, and we actually found a space that the owners of the building let us have it for $1 a year for the first 3 years. In retrospect, I figured out why. But we spent about 3 years turning a major shithole into a minor shithole. We rebuilt the interior of the building, redid roof work, rewired it, replumbed it. I've got experience doing electrical and plumbing and everything, so we completely redid everything. We built a floor that you could park a semi on and it wouldn't go anywhere. We just spent weekend after weekend working on this space. And because of that, our dues were like $45 a month, which Joey choked on when I told him that. But we didn't, I guess our model was a little bit different. We actually had myself as president, Gabriel as vice president. We had a secretary and treasurer. But it wasn't something where we voted every month or 6 months or every year, because a lot of that turmoil that happens in a hackerspace causes a lot of trouble. So if I was going to be the guy responsible if something went south, I was going to be able to say, no, we will not set the parking lot on fire, or no, you cannot knock out that section of the wall because, I don't know if you know this, that's a load-bearing wall. Don't do that. So
in our sense, it was, no, we have a neighbor on the other side of that wall.
Yeah.
He may not like it if we actually pop a hole.
Yeah.
In this portion of the space.
Don't drill holes in the wall. Yeah, don't drill holes in the wall. Don't take anything out. So our model was a little bit different in that we didn't just let everybody in the door, because there's $100,000 worth of gear all around this building, and we actually would bring you in and you would meet everybody, and we would kind of vet you. Yeah, I don't mind leaving my $30,000 blah 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 in front of this guy, so we'll just that's fine, and then you'd join up and we'd give you a key card and you had 24/7 access.
Vetting is a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, we ran into a process like that too, because in part because of a limitation on space, and we wanted to, since we wanted good people in, the membership process almost became the kind of don't be a dick policy, which is you come in.
I wish we'd have implemented.
Yeah, we come in, you come in, and we have associate members, and people go through what some people in our group have kind of coined the maker quest. You have a sponsor who's a full member or a board member, and once we've seen that you're interested in working in the community, that you're doing good stuff, and it usually only takes a month or two if you're really involved. I mean, it doesn't, it's not like, oh yeah, you've been doing it for a year now, you can do it, and once you've come to that point, then we allow you full membership. Then you can come to full membership if you want. Then you get the key, because when you have 24/7 access and there's not somebody there to watch you, you need to know that those people aren't going to take the laser cutter and blow something up. Yep. There's too much money and too much equipment involved to just say, yeah, everybody have a key, come run in whenever the heck you want, because then something inevitably bad happens.
Yeah, there's been more than one point when I've looked over and there's a guy standing there watching the laser run, and I listen, and the vent system is not on, because I had a huge turbine that like normally you use in a wood shop to pull all the chips and everything out of your equipment, all the sawdust, and you can hear this thing from the other room, and I look around and the laser is moving and I don't hear the vent system. And I'm thinking, something's odd, and you realize the cavity that the laser is in is filling up with smoke. And once the laser starts hitting the particulates and they start sticking to the mirror, it's a matter of moments before the mirrors explode. They crack at $300 a piece, and it's all you can do to run from one side of the space and turn it on. You run into some crazy stuff where vetting helps out a lot. The guy that actually had the turkey, like we had a thing that were making beer or something, so they were actually I had like the turkey cooking deal with a propane tank and everything. And I was standing across the space, and I look over and I see something kind of pop up over the top of the table edge because it was sitting on the far end of a table. Oh, that seems kind of odd. And it was a flame, and it was jumping up. And I thought, this is going to be a shitty day. And I come trucking down the end of the tables, and what had happened is this guy had set the propane tank down and the turkey cooker, so you have this huge, burner, and the tank hose had a curl in it that went in, and the curl was next to, close enough to the heater that it was melting through the side of the hose. It was burning it. So propane was venting directly, and what would happen is the gas coming up is dense enough.
Wait a minute.
The gas is intense enough at the base that it will not ignite until it mixes with the oxygen on the way up, and it would foom, foom, and it was literally like bursting, and it's eating its way through the hose. Now, contrary to popular, you don't dive at fire, you run from fire. So I have to run over next to this tank of gas, which I don't know if it'll go back down the hose or not, if the regulator's not, and crank this thing down to stop it. And the guy goes, "What's the matter, dude?" And you see the hole in the hose right here? Are we supposed to trust you with flame? Yeah, he's not a member anymore. But
Yeah.
So it sounds like you have a two-part problem, right? It's like making sure you're not letting people who are going to steal all your shit in there, but then it's like, how do you make sure that people aren't going to hurt themselves with things they don't understand?
So
You got a couple of things in there, right? I mean, just because you vet someone and you would let them stay at your house overnight, let's say, doesn't mean you put your life in their hands, right?
Yeah.
Just because you like someone and I trust you in my house, doesn't mean I give you, I let you turn the gas on and play with matches in my house either, right? You got very, very fundamentally different things. The one thing that was different about unallocated space, and remember the name unallocated space. When you think about what that means we don't, you don't know what the space is going to be used for, and that name turned out to be more correct, than almost anything else, because the financial model that we tried to implement was different than any other hackerspace that had ever been created. It was every hacker can come in and hack for free. There are no dues. The founders will take care of keeping the space running. Now that sounds great if you're not one of the founders. That's a model that works out very fiscally well and financially well if you're not one of the founders that's responsible for the running of the space. So the goal was to let the founders take care of things and people just come in and hack stuff and give donations as they will. And if you're going to form a hackerspace, you need to have some idea of what you want to be when you grow up. You can't just go into it saying, all right, we're just going to come in and hack and people give us donations and this, that, and the other thing. You have to have some idea of the kind of projects you want to do, of the things that you want to run, and the content that you want to do consistently. We had consistency problems early on that we never could overcome.
Yeah. And the other thing about the model that they went with is when you have a system where it's like, the founders are we're going to take care of everything, make donations and stuff. The kind of the pay what you think it's worth model is
that doesn't work.
You're going to wind up with at least 80% of the people who won't pay anything. And
you're going to run into 2 or 3 founders who give more money than any other founder does, and therefore thinking they're entitled to more of a say. If you're going to have 8 founders and you're going to say we all have an equal share no matter what goes on, and you have certain founders that give more money or time than others, they're going to think they're entitled to more input in the running of the space than others. And that's problematic because there's no such thing as a benevolent dictator. Nothing. No, I'm sorry. There's no such thing as a benevolent dictator. It's just a dick. Honestly, that's
you can't spell dictator without a dick.
That is what you can't. It comes to, some people can get away with it. Guy's got a personality that lends itself to being a benevolent dictator. That's very rare and very unusual. Usually it's just a colossal dick who says, do it this way, do it that way, pisses everybody off, and people run fleeing from the space. That's a problem we had because we didn't think through the financial model of, if it's a community, everybody contributes in some way, shape, or form. You may not be able to give financially to the space, but you can give in some other way to the running of the space. It could be contributing stuff, it can be contributing code, ideas, whatever. But contribute in some way. Just don't come there and drink our Jaeger. That pisses us off, all right?
Put it back in the freezer when you're
And put it back in the goddamn freezer, for Christ's sakes. So the running joke for a long time at Unallocated was we're a drinking space with a hacking problem. And that is absolutely the truth. The amount of booze that we were going through, because we didn't have a good idea of what we wanted to do at the time. We didn't think it through. We didn't have an idea of the kind of content that we wanted to run on Wednesday. All right, what do you want to run every Wednesday? What do you want to run twice a month to bring people in? We didn't think that kind of stuff through. Whereas the guys over at Nova thought it through. They thought through the kind of people they wanted to have in, the kind of equipment they wanted to have. We did not think that through at the very beginning. And we, as founders, we ended up hating each other after a period of time. We couldn't, there's some of my fellow founders, we could not speak to each other for a period of time after we had left and kind of gone our own separate ways because we did not think through what we wanted unallocated to ultimately be when it grew up. It was just come in, hack stuff up, do 12 shots of Jaeger, get the fuck out. You know, and that's fun for a week or 2 weeks. But when you have bills to pay,
or until the Jaeger runs out,
you know, but the point is it's fun for a period of time. But do you want to be a hackerspace where you have lock picking and replication and rep wrapping, or do you just want to be a frat house? All right, you know, which way do you want to go? You got to think it through. And I'm not saying have a business plan or anything like that, but what I am saying is think what you want to be after a month goes by and you still have rent to pay and everything else, because next month you got bills to pay. You know, you've got to bring in people. You've got to have compelling content. You've got to have a reason. Every third Wednesday of the month is going to be tool night. Every fourth is going to be FPGAs. Every fifth is going to be there's got to be compelling content and reasons for people to come in. Doesn't happen by accident, and we didn't learn that early enough. Luckily, we ended up learning it eventually and didn't burn to the ground. Sorry, rant over.
No, it's all right. No. So about the benevolent dictator comment.
It wasn't toward you. I
No.
said you're one of the few people that actually
Yeah.
has the
No,
personality.
actually,
That's rare, though.
if you took a poll, I probably was a dick at certain times because there is a certain amount of wouldn't it be cool if when you get a bunch of hackers together.
Yep.
And I actually one of the things that I do in addition to doing conferences like
being
this,
the grown up isn't being a dick.
I have to be the one who talks to the cops, and I swear I am good at that. I've talked them off the ledge before because more than once someone shows up and they're like, we need to know what the hell you're doing here. And I have to stand in front of a guy who's got a gun on his waist and go, it's all right. So what we're doing is blah, 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 blah. So there's a certain amount of that where I had to be, I was the benevolent dictator, and I always wanted people to do interesting things, but I also had to be the guy that said, okay, if you seal the gas in that tube and you get a spark, you could kill us all. So if you don't mind, let's not do that. The best one, the same guy that did the propane tank, I go with C-Blind to Home Depot, and we funded a bunch of the fixing the space up out of our own pockets. I could have bought a portion of a Ferrari by the time I got done with this. So, so we go to Home Depot to pick up some stuff. You know, we're on 2x4s, blah, blah, blah. And I come back, and every member of the hackerspace is standing outside the door. And let me tell you something, that's never a good sign when you show up someplace. And I walk up, and I go, what the hell are we doing out here? And look at Knight in the back, you smiling bastard, you. And they're like, we're waiting. And I said, waiting for what? And what had happened,
Green cloud of fumes go away.
the deal was, in the back of our hackerspace was a wooden roll-up garage door, which in the area we were in, a wooden door was not exactly the most good thing. Yeah, so they had, the previous owners had actually done, drilled screws and lag bolts in and held everything in place. And the goal for the day was to take everything out to be able to replace that with concrete block, which we became masons for the weekend. So if you've ever seen a commercial warehouse door, there is a huge spring that's under unbelievable tension at the top of it. And it has warning labels all over it. It's one of the most dangerous things to screw with. And the guys who actually put in those kind of doors for a living have got to have the shakes most of the time. So the deal was, I said, take the framework out, take the tension off the spring, take the framework out. We'll be back in a few. We'll pull everything out and start to work. And I come back in, and I'm like, what do you guys got going on? So I had bought a brand new ladder, like an idiot, and it was sitting in there. Earlier, they had cut one of these cables, a high-tension cable used to pull the door up and down. And the cable whips out and hits my brand new ladder, knocks it over, and bends the hell out of it. And it's like, okay, well, that made it a week. That's great. We've been using the ladder. What they had decided to do was, because that was so dangerous and someone almost got hit by the cable, they took my propane torch, cranked up the heat, and set it where it was heating the cable. And they were waiting for the cable to fatigue and snap while they were outside the building. So they were all standing outside the building when I walked up. And
awesome.
You have to understand, my father taught me how to do all of these wonderful things I'd love to share with people, and the whole time I'm going, you're doing what? Again, I crack the door and run towards the flame like a schmuck. And I go over and grab this thing, and the piece of the cable is red hot. And I stopped and I said, who came up with this? Same jackass. Dude, we leave the building. And I said, do you have a piece of like 1/4-inch rope? Yeah, sure, dude, sure. Give it here. I get on the ladder, I hook it on the end of the spring on this end, come over and I make a loop in the bottom of it, and I stick my foot in the loop, and I push down just a little bit, and every bit of the tension comes off of it. And I said, you can cut that cable now. And they take a hacksaw and cut this steel cable, and I said, are you ready? And I let my foot out, and all the tension came off of it. There was no excitement, nobody was in danger. And the whole time I'm like, dude, we never thought of that. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. But again, you have to run towards the flame like a schmuck. Yeah, and you have to be careful what you let them do. So
When you get to the point when you have to tell people to not jump through your fire tornado, you know you have certain issues. And when you have time, Google unallocated space fire tornado. It's kind of what we got known for, is doing these fire tornadoes. And, you know, it's all great and it's all well, but we were actually in the landing path we're actually still in the landing path of BWI. So you find yourself having these conversations you never thought you would have with another human being on planet Earth, which is don't go outside and shine lasers up in the air. The NSA doesn't like that. All right, we're right down the street from Fort Meade. We're right in the landing path of BWI. Don't shoot lasers at the airplanes. You know the pilots, it really pisses them the fuck off. Don't do that. You know, so you have those, you know, you got to jump in and have these conversations that you never thought you were going to have with any other sane person on planet Earth.
But that brings up a liability question. I mean, is who is responsible? Like, who has
Signer of the lease.
So, yep.
insurance?
Whose name?
Yeah.
Whose name?
At
Lessee.
that point.
The lessee.
How could you carry that level of risk and not
Well,
just be a nervous wreck?
So,
Scotch.
yep,
It's the only
yeah.
way.
So actually,
Jaeger.
in our
remember,
case,
remember
yeah.
the part when I said put the Jaeger back in the freezer? That's how we dealt with it unallocated.
We had one of the first things we did once we started, I think probably even before we had a space, was we got insured.
Yep.
We got insurance put in place.
How the hell do you tell an insurance agent, we're a hackerspace?
I
Please insure us.
I don't know if we used the word hacker when we told them. I do think the word maker was probably used. And it was a description, and we described what we were doing. We described having the laser cutter. We described, we'd have power tools.
It's
And so
kind of
they
the same
found
for us now that I think about it. You know, we're in an industrial park, so the rules are kind of different when you're in an industrial park.
So we
right?
kind of, we told them, we explained, this is what we want to do. And so based on that, they were able to classify us as, what kind of group we would fall under and get the insurance. And one of the things that we did then is, we've got a waiver. And when you see our waiver, there's like a cute little cartoon at the top for people who might, object to signing a waiver. That's kind of like, I think somebody put it together. It looks kind of like an XKCD comic, but they took a bunch of different slides, and it's kind of like, yeah, you want to do cool shit? Yeah, well, so in order to do cool shit and make sure we all can still keep doing cool shit, we need to sign this waiver.
Yep.
And
we
and
ran
the other
safety
thing
classes at the beginning for certain things, too.
and that's the other thing. We have safety classes now as well. So we've got an intro course. It's like, okay, here's the hand tools. Here's how you use them. Don't cut off your hand. And then we have a laser. Before you can use the laser cutter for yourself for the first time, we have a laser 101 where they go through full operation. And the last thing you do before you leave that class is you sit down with the instructor behind you, use the laser cutter, and we verify that, we've got like a set pattern or something that you can cut out. And you cut that out, and you get to take your first laser cut thing that you've ever made home, and you also get to say, I can now verify that I know how to use a laser cutter.
So yeah, I was the jackass who had the table saw and the first person and only person to run his fingertip through the carbide tip blade. Doesn't always work when you teach everybody else.
So, I mean, you can only do so much with teaching, but that's why you've got the liability waivers, you've got the insurance. So you have those things in place to cover the space.
Yeah, and for us at the beginning, we avoided a lot of that, again, because most of us were in IS. We're all information security people. We're guys that rip, malware apart and stuff like that. So a lot of those issues, which caused us problems long term because, again, we didn't have the kind of stuff that people really wanted to come in and do. It was hardware hacking and things like that, but we didn't have a lot of those real safety issues. But classifying us was really very interesting because, well, what are you? You're in this big, huge 1,600 square foot bay, and you guys are all sitting around at tables coding. Yeah, it's pretty much, that was a fair description at the very beginning. We were running classes, we were doing this, we were doing that. But there wasn't the maker issues that you guys had with rep wraps and lasers and stuff. We didn't have those issues. I wish we had.
So if we haven't scared you all off from running or starting a makerspace yet, we'll be more than glad to answer questions.
Think it through.
Yeah, so if you have any specific questions, if you'd like to find out more about why the hell we decided to do these crazy things or how we've solved problems in our situations.
I think that
why some of us went back to our hackerspaces after we left. I just recently went back to my hackerspace.
Okay, so I guess at this point we've been beat up after having done one for a while, so that's why you hear all the horror stories. It's also a cautionary tale for you to start one, but on the other hand, for me, there was something really cool about teaching a guy how to weld or giving him a skill that that's the kind of thing I would have, hey, Billy, come here for a minute. Hold the end of this piece of metal. Okay, put the here, and you've welded. And people go, dude, that was cool. Like, my father and grandfather taught me how to do it. If I can turn around and show Billy how to do that, it doesn't matter whether Billy ever welds again, but if that makes Billy feel great for the day or for the week or for the year, or someone makes a comment later on and goes, yeah, I know how to weld. That sharing that kind of stuff with people is actually the essence of what you do in a hacker makerspace.
Makes all the problems actually worth it, by the way.
Yeah, you know what? It's like doing this conference. If you guys come out and have a good time, if one person gets inspired to do something and it changes anything about their life and makes them happier, I don't care what it costs. It's been well worth it to do it. Putting a hackerspace together was the biggest expense I've ever had in my life, one of the larger headaches I've ever had, but I've facilitated more people learning more things by doing that. It's worth every cent of it.
Yep, every cent of it. I can tell you this is, and this will come up when we do our interview thing later on today, is I work for, disclosure here, I work for McAfee, and I have a very small team that I'm actually a part of, and the last two people I hired on my team were people I met through my hackerspace. All right, so think about that for a minute. It has nothing to do with, we were talking earlier about certifications and crap like that, right? That never came up. When you're forming the equivalent of an information security hacking special forces team, certifications are fucking irrelevant, okay? You're looking for people who can do certain tasks and are arguably the best at what they do. And the two last people who became part of this team were people who I knew solely through an allocated space, solely through my hacking community connections and stuff like that. It wasn't done through recruiters or anything else. It was done solely through people who I knew and I wanted to connect with through the hacker community because I knew they were the best of the best. And I'm only, in the job that we do, being the best is kind of the minimum requirement. And it was only through an allocated that I actually had known those people and was actually able to build the team that I actually have. So net, join a hackerspace, you might get a job, especially if you know your shit, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
No one in this room is ever going to go out and form a hackerspace.
Yeah, no. Look at them all. They all look like they all look scared now. So any questions? Yes. Anyone in the crowd? Don't be afraid.
Did any of you put a business entity in place?
Yes. the first.
I wish.
The first thing we
would have
did.
done that actually correctly at the. That was one of my biggest lessons learned, and I wish Nick was up here. Nick Farr is probably responsible for the founding of more hackerspaces in this country than any other human being on planet Earth. And Nick is a CPA. Nick knows how to file those forms and all that kind of good stuff. But we were never able to accomplish it for a couple of very tangible reasons. Is number one, Nick's a busy guy. Number two, none of us ever thought it through to the point of, well, Nick is our CPA, he should be doing all that stuff. We didn't realize that we had to do portions of the business plan and the 503 or whatever the hell the filing is. So it actually ended up falling apart in many ways. They just recently finished filing their tax exemption status and stuff literally 3 years after we founded the space.
Yeah, in our case, we did our 501c, we did our LLC like that. Like, State of Virginia makes it nice and easy. It's a form that you fill out online. It costs $100. It takes you like 10 minutes. I have since created my own LLC, which is, I was kind of scared at how easy it was. The other thing, is we started our 501c3, and that's one of the things. Not every hackerspace needs to be a 501c3. some.
And it's tough too. Doing all
it's
the
not easy.
justifications for doing it is actually a little
Yeah.
time, because you got to think through why you should have tax exempt status, right? What 5 things do you do for the community
Right.
that, and, that justify you being, having this exempt status? We tried doing the technology reclamation stuff, where people would bring in old technology and we would go through the reclamation process of ripping apart the board, putting them into separate bins and stuff like that. Working in a space of ADD hackers, that didn't work out very well. It worked out good for a couple of days, and then it just turned into a big pile of crap.
Yeah.
That nobody ended up ripping apart and stuff like that.
And we've tried to go down the route of an education, like, providing education for community and for stuff like that. And we've actually found a big following. What I learned is once one person who does homeschooling finds out about you, they all find out about you, because they have a big, yes,
They're good networkers.
Yes, they network very well. And so because of that, we started getting more people in, and we've had more STEM type things going on. And one of the things we've done, probably once every other month or so, once every other month, is these take apart days where the kids will come in, their parents will be there, and we'll just have old electronics that people have brought in, and sit there, take the shit apart and find out how it's made. How do all these pieces go together, so that they can learn about those things. And we've had people do things, they've made, I'm fascinated, and I really wish more of this stuff existed when I was younger. The squishy circuits and stuff like that, they've got.
Take apart day is a
Yeah.
phenomenal idea.
So it's, you have all these things now where people can come in, and we do these sorts of events trying to get the kids in, because odds are if the parents are bringing the kids in, the parents are interested too. So it's a win-win for you, because not only do the parents want to be there, but they have the kids who want to be there. And so having that circle kind of helps, complete the situation. The biggest question we ran into was when we had a 16-year-old who came in and wanted to become a member. And we all looked at each other like, how the heck do we handle a minor? We were like, we don't know what to do.
Gently and without the police noticing.
And we basically came to the decision, the parent was willing to sign off on the waiver as well. So we had the child and the parent sign the waiver, and we agreed that there were certain things, like using the laser cutter and the 3D printers, we agreed were at a relative safety level where supervision may not necessarily be required. But if he goes and uses the table saw and the things that he could lose body parts with, then maybe those we would actually watch and make sure that there was some supervision available. And that was just, you're going to inevitably, no matter how much planning you come up with, you're going to run into a situation where you're all going to have to stop and say, well, how do we handle this? What is the process, and to make sure that things, to not necessarily please everybody, but to try to keep, because you don't want to tell the 16-year-old, no, I'm sorry, you can't. You have to be 18.
That's the worst thing you could do.
That actually is the worst thing you could do. Because you want, one of the things we want to do is we want, we all want to kind of build that interest, and we want the next generation of hackers and makers to come up. And if we sit there and tell him, no, you can't do it until you're 18, then, when he turns 18, he's going to look at us and go, oh, fuck you guys, you told me I couldn't come. Whoa.
That's hilarious.
Something was really funny behind me. So,
That was weird.
yeah, it was.
That was weird.
So,
You guys have met Ski Boy, right? Raise your hand if you've met Ski Boy.
We've met Ski Boy.
Oh, that's hilarious. It's impossible not to meet this kid, whether you want to or not. It's like being forced upon you. Ski Boy actually showed up to our hackerspace. He found us. His mother brought him over. And, of course, she comes into the space, and there's like, laying on the table is a 9mm adjacent from a 45 adjacent to a bottle of Jaeger. It's like everyone came in. You get tired of carrying your weapon around.
I don't recall her coming to unallocated.
Yeah, no.
I don't recall that.
No. So literally, like, guys would come in and you would start to work on something, but most of our people had a carry permit, but you couldn't really do a lot of work if you had your weapon on. So we just had an understanding if you put your piece on the table, everyone would work around it. No one would bother it. They would ask you if they wanted to see it or something. But there's, and we weren't like drinking and carrying guns at the same time. Somebody would actually have a bottle of scotch and they would enjoy something, or Jaeger, and then there'd be a weapon, and then someone would be like surfing, Live Leak or something. There'd be something just risque come across the screen. Everybody's laughing their tail off, and this kid comes in and goes, "Hi, how you doing? I'm Ski Boy." And you're like, oh God, we got to change some things around here if he's going to hang out. The only trouble was we had the exact same thing, is we couldn't, for us, we couldn't make him a member and allow him access 24/7 and have those things there. But the membership was comfortable with the fact that you could walk in carrying a gun and no one freaked out about it. We always made sure if you went to pull your gun off, you go, you know, if there's a new guy there, do guns bother you? And if they are, they go put them back in their car so it wouldn't upset anybody. So Ski Boy is hanging out there, and he comes out. He's not in the room, right? Annoying as absolute shit. Great kid, but he's an Aspie. Yeah, he's very smart. He's got Asperger's. But so he does not understand sarcasm, and the only way you can get him to shut up is yell at him. And he doesn't get mad when you yell at him. He just understands, oh, okay, that's how that works. So he comes out a couple times, and you know, a lot of us older guys, we're mentoring him, and we let him break stuff and play around, and it's a lot of fun. And one day I go out to walk him out to where his mom is to introduce myself and talk to her again. And I said, yeah, you know, had a good day today. He did some great stuff. He's having a blast. And she said, I can't begin to tell you how wonderful this is. She says, he is having so much fun. He says, we don't know what the hell he talks about all the time. We don't understand what he's into. He's always talking about some computer crap, and my husband and I have no clue what he's talking about. He comes out here and gets it all out of his system. He has an absolute blast, and you guys understand him. Well, prior to him coming out there, he didn't have any friends because no one understood what he was talking about. And yeah, he's standing around with, you know, 40-year-olds and you know, guys that are in the security industry and everything. Well, we've all been kind of, you know, obnoxious in the past when we were younger.
Like we all haven't had our Asperger syndrome.
Yeah, that's who in the room doesn't have a flash of that somewhere. So we all kind of, you know, you go, look, dude, all right, let me explain to you how this works. And we actually kind of, you know, a lot of the guys that you would not expect to chime in and give him advice and everything would sit and chat with him and everything. So although we didn't make him a member, he came out and spent time with us and everything. And if you were at the con the first year and last year and this year, you will see that he has actually gotten a lot better. He's more social. He understands things a lot better. And it's not because just he matured over the last couple of years. It's because we've smacked him around and explained to him this is how things work. And his personal development and where he's at has grown so much. He was on stage on Hacker Jeopardy last night answering questions left and right. No one was giving him the answers. He was answering them.
Except he was not answering them in the form of a question.
Except,
Yeah.
there was no form of a question, and I still say they cheated and they Googled the answer.
Oh, this is you.
Look,
you.
in the end, we're kind of all ski boy in
Yeah.
one way, shape,
Yeah.
or form, aren't we?
Yeah.
Look, we're all social misfits in some way, shape, or form. We're all
T-shirt for
fucking
next year?
smart for our own goods.
Yeah.
You know,
We are Ski Boy T-shirt for next
we
year.
are.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
Hi, I'm
Don't
Ski
quote
Boy.
me on that, but we're
seriously.
all ski boy in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, if we fit in normal society, we wouldn't have a conference where we're sitting here right now, honestly. I mean, that's the thing is we all get together because...
Oh my God, is it going to be Ski Boy Con one day?
No,
Oh
don't even...
my God.
Erase that part of the tape. No.
Oh my God.
No. But seriously, we all get together in groups like this because we all understand each other, and we're all ski boy in a way. And honestly, I mean, if you're in a crowd of people, I've been to meetings with other people, and you're just kind of standing there because I'm checking my phone, I'm thinking about designing stuff or whatever, and they go, "You're a hacker?" And you go, "Shit, here it comes." Yeah. Well, what do you know how to do? Can you hack into my Facebook account? And you're just like, the guy that's sitting on the couch next to me is never going to say, "Would you hack into my Facebook account?" And he goes, "Yeah, man." So I was doing some scotch the other day, and we reverse engineered this malware, and we figured out the Chinese are, you know, and you're just like, that's fucking cool. You know, we just don't fit normal society. And
The best one was I was at Carolina Con, which is down in Raleigh. This would have been, I guess, almost 3 years ago now. And sitting at the hotel, this tiny hotel bar, and these guys don't know exactly what they did, but you know, kind of blue collar guys who I think travel a lot for their work. And you know, they asked, you know, what was going on, and we kind of explained the conference and stuff to them. And so one of them goes over and he goes, "Yeah, I know they do some monitoring stuff on our work laptops." His exact question was, "Do you know some way that I can like use my computer to look up porn without them knowing?" and that was kind of the day I was like, "Oh Jesus, what if it?" So
when you brand yourself, it's an interesting thing, right? You know, if you're going to carry the brand hacker, you know, and tout it and brand yourself proudly like some of us do, you know, be prepared to answer the question, right? It's an educational opportunity. If you brand yourself hacker, be prepared to explain what it is and take them away from the misconception that the media, you know, uses about us. It's an educational opportunity, right? You can either turn someone into a hater I love sitting out in the lobby. Like people will ask, what is this SkyDog thing? All right, that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity to educate people about what the hell it is we do, what the hell it is we are, and what we're not, more importantly. Because we are not what 99% of the people think we are.
Yeah, no, I've had cases of that where I've probably seen it more than any place else is actually in Vegas every year, DEF CON. And there have been a couple times where I've been sitting at tables, gambling a little bit in between drinks and partying. And I've had people who are like, "Oh yeah, I heard about this and this is," and I have to stop and just explain to them. Like, I can't sit there and just listen to it. I'm like, we're not all sitting here breaking into your, Facebooks and trying to steal your identity. Trust me, if we were doing it, you wouldn't even know it anyway. But it was one of those things. Yes,
That's
it's
right.
not. I don't
Well
care
said.
about your
Who
Facebook.
said that?
That was
Who
Bob.
Said that? Bob. Well said, sir.
Yes, we don't want your Facebook
We don't want
identity.
your
We don't.
Facebooks.
People don't care. Most people don't care.
You're not that interesting. You're not interesting enough.
The
reality
is,
looking at your Facebook. Sorry.
Yeah, now we're starting to degrade into defending the hacker. But yeah, it's just one of those things where trying to get the image, and I think that was one of the things we wanted to do. And one of the things I still try to do with the space, at Nova Labs is, I know why we have the name Maker and Makerspace, and I'm not going to get into that argument, but trying to use the word hacker and trying to defend the word. Luckily,
What the hell was that?
I have no idea.
What the hell was that I just caught out of the corner of my eye, guys? Come on now. All right. No, these are not the slides we're looking for?
So I'm glad I'm facing this way.
You really are. You're really glad.
So I think it's one of those things where we're trying to educate and change that image. And I think one thing, and Dave can let me know if I'm just batshit crazy about this. I don't know that the term hacker, I think depending on where you are, carries more negative connotation.
Because I struggle with that sometimes.
I don't think in the area, since we're both in the DC area, I don't know that it's as bad there, because I think, and maybe it's just my perception not dealing with as many normal people. Is that a bad word to use? But I think the word hacker is, people understand. I'd like to think to some extent, and maybe more so in our area than others.
I don't know. I think they do, and I think they don't. To me, I like using the word because it starts a conversation, I think, more than maker sometimes. I mean, truth be told, if you can have if you can start a discussion where you have a good discussion, start a discussion where you have a good discussion, that's irrelevant. But you know what I mean. I think it's a good way to start a discussion around what it is we are, what it is we aren't, and a chance to educate and bring people in to the world. That's a great thing. When you can turn something into a moment of education or an educational moment, that is a great thing. That doesn't happen too often. And the word hacker can be used for that kind of stuff. You just got to be prepared to have the discussion, because people come with a lot of baggage about, oh, those hackers did this, those hackers did that. That's not what a hacker is, ma'am, or sir, or whatever.
No, that was a script kiddie.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? If you can turn it into an opportunity to educate people, then you're kind of your own little walking, talking hackerspace, right? Because that's kind of what it's about. It's about educating people. That's it.
So, anybody else have any questions? Questions? Anybody? You're all good? Wow. Nothing.
How did the 501c3 work out as far as getting public money?
We're still doing it. We started our filing shortly after we started. We are still going, and every time any of us ask, we keep the guys who are kind of in charge of getting it done always say we're really close. It's a long process. The government doesn't like to easily let you avoid paying taxes. So obviously they want to make sure that you're going to do what you're saying you're going to do.
And it really comes down to justifying why you should get the exempt status. You have to have tangible examples of what you're doing for the community. And if you don't have tangible examples, it's going to drag on. They'll kick it back and kick it back and kick it back. So you cannot honestly engage a good CPA or a good accountant who has gone through that process a bunch of times before. And however much they charge you, it's probably worth it. To get the designation correct, so you go into it with the right expectations of how difficult a process it can be.
And one of the things we've done to help people who wanted to provide us donations under kind of the 501c3 process is we actually partnered as a project under School Factory, and so anybody who makes donations through that can earmark the money to go to Nova Labs, and School Factory basically takes 10% of the funds as part of the transfer. But we've had a couple people who wanted to do large donations go through that process because they can take the write-off as doing the donation, and we still get the vast majority of the money. So we've had a couple people who've done that, and that was kind of, we've used that to some extent as the stopgap while we're going through our 501c3 process, because we knew that it was going to take a long time.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're good? Okay. That's, we're being told to wrap it up, but trust me, if you find any of us around, we'll be more than glad to answer questions that you might have about hackers or makerspaces. We can probably talk about this all day if they'd let us. So.
And as negative as it sounds, I mean, the positives definitely still outweigh the negatives to me.
Yeah.
I've met more smart people who are way smarter than I am. I work with some of them today. I've made better connections. Honestly, it's been more positive than it's been negative. The negative's been real frustrating, but frustrating for the right reasons. You know, you use it for educational purposes, educational moments, and make out of it what you will.
Absolutely.
All right. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Did you finish that?
No, you want some?
No, God, no.
Well, we're not doing shots of caramel up here?
No, we're not doing shots of caramel. That's just...